Alright, now we're going to go on to step 3, which I now realize that I screwed up the first 2 steps in the respect that we weren't supposed to draw up 2.25 cc's of this. We were supposed to draw 5 cc's of this, reconstitute this with 5, and then we're going to withdraw 2.25 cc's of this reconstituted vial. So forgive me on that first piece. We are definitely taking 5 cc's out of this and putting 5 cc's into this vial, reconstituting the salt in there, and that's the first step. So now we're at the second step. Now we're going to withdraw 2.25 cc's out of this vial, and we're going to place it into this bag. Now this is the important part of this this bag here. This is the spike port, okay? I don't know how many times last year the same thing. Students pulled this off, and we're trying to inject into this area here. There's a very thin plastic membrane here. As soon as you puncture it, it's not as resilient as this injection port here. As soon as you pierce it and take the needle out, it's not going to close back up, so it's going to start leaking. Alright, so we are not going to use this port. Leave this blue piece on this spike port. This is a spike port. It's meant to be connected to IV tubing. It is not the injection port. This is the injection port. Okay, you can tell because it looks like a rubber stopper. It has a little bullet in the middle, and it's made of what looks to be like latex, but it's really isobutyryl material, right? Just like the stoppers here. Alright, here we actually have that same kind of membrane here, but we also have this rubbery kind of material here, and that's actually meant to be poked several times, and it'll self-seal. It has enough resilience that as soon as you put a needle through it, it'll actually close it up and it'll seal it, and it'll prevent any bacteria from getting in there and anything leaking out. Now, this only has a life of probably about maybe 10 sticks, and that's about it. And even to be on the safe side, I would say probably 4 to 5 sticks is about the maximum that you should be doing. So if you have to make a bag with multiple injections, you should use what's called a port saver. So a port saver is, if you could imagine this, basically one of these stoppers or one of these injection ports on a needle, and you stick the needle in here and the other injection ports out here. So you can stick the injection port as many times as you want, with the port saver as many times as you want, but this injection port, since it only has one needle in it, is actually only getting one stick, alright, one needle stick in here, and this port saver just gets pulled off when we're done and it gets thrown out. So if you're going to make something that has multiple sticks, and in particular probably about 5 is your comfort zone, anything more than 5, you should really be using a port saver. And really, quite honestly, my opinion, I think if you're doing anything over 3 sticks, maybe 4, anything over 4, you should probably be using a port saver to make sure that this stays intact, that nothing leaks out, and none of the bacteria can find its way in. Alright, so with that being said, remember, this is the spike port. We don't want to use that. We don't want to pull the blue tab off either. This is the injection port. This is the port that we want to use. Alright, so just like a rubber stopper, we are going to have to take an alcohol swab and swab that off. Now, if you want to re-swab these other ones, that's fine as well. The important thing is for the injection port, we want the port in first air. So having the port in first air like this, having first air come over like this is perfectly fine. We can also position it like this as well. What we cannot do is we cannot position it like this, right? Because if we position it like this isn't being wiped off or wiped down. It's blocking the first air in the direct compounding area right here. Alright, so this is where we want to inject. So it either has to be this way or this way. I find it, or actually, since I'm right-handed, I find it actually easier to be this way, because what we'll do is we'll actually push down on this little port, or this little cylindrical area, and it kind of raises the port up off the ground a little bit. What you'll do then is take good hold of it. See, I'm not blocking first air. This is your direct compounding area, and I'm not blocking first air. You can hold it very steadily right here. What people people try to do is like this, and then they try to inject into this in this port, and what happens is, you can see, it's not very stable. But once I grab onto like this, it's very stable, and I'm not going to poke myself. I like this. If I push too hard, one, I could slip, or two, this can actually go through, and this is still plastic. And so if you're going at a different angle here, if you're going in like this, if you're going into the port like this, you could actually have the needle come out and actually stick you. Alright, so you definitely do not want to do this, come at an angle like this. You want to come in as parallel with that port as much as possible, but hold this here, right here. Remember, not to block first air, but if you hold it right here, it's very steady. You'll be able to get a good injection, a very good line, and you won't stick yourself. Okay. Now, if you try to go in like this, or if you try to go in like this, or if you try to go in like this, as opposed to very parallel, you're going to probably stick yourself. Okay. So you don't want to do that. You want to make sure you hold this, and you want to make sure you go in parallel, and you want to make sure that you go into correctly. So same thing though, you're going to go in at first at a 45. Once that bevel, heel of the bevel, is in, then you go into parallel. Okay. Now, it should be very easy. It should slide in very easily. Okay. If you're about this far in and you start getting a lot of resistance, you're probably hitting the plastic port, the walls of the port. You want to stop, and you don't want to go all the way through, otherwise you're going to stick yourself. Done that a couple of times myself, yeah, you don't want to do it a second time or a third time or fourth time. But anyway, so this is still a port. We can still core this by having the bevel or the heel of the bevel catch it. So if we go straight in like this at first, that's possibly going to core, and that's the last thing we want. So we want to come in at a 45-degree angle, just like the stopper, and then once that heel of the bevel is in the stopper, or the port in this case, then we can go at a 90-degree angle, or parallel with the port, and go straight in. Alright? Now the first time you go in, you get to about this point, you're going to feel just a little bit of resistance, because that's that little membrane I was telling you about here. That'll pierce very easily. If you go in, if you're in about this far and you feel that little membrane, and then you start getting resistance like this, then that's when you're hitting the wall. Alright, so with that being said, let's take this vial here. Now, again, remember I said this is perfectly fine. This isn't first air, this isn't first air, even though this is down low. Alright, so we go in at a 45-degree angle, and then we hold the vial like this. Okay, we want to make sure that we hold the vial up, straight up and down. Now, it's kind of hard for me to show you this and demonstrate this at the same time, so that the camera catches this. So you're going to see me do this for the purposes so I can get this on camera, but we really should be going like this, and if I were to be looking in the hood, I should actually be going like this, and my eyes are at this level here. Alright, so either if this neck is not big enough, I need to move my hands up here so that I'm not blocking first air. Alright, in this case where the vial is big enough, I can have my hands on the neck, and I'm not blocking first air. As you can see right around here, I'm not blocking first air. This neck is not big, this is the neck, is not big enough, and you can see my fingers are actually blocking first air. So I should put my hands up a little bit higher, so on the vial itself, and hold that, or my fingers I should say, and hold that, and then I should be looking at it like this in the hood. Now, like I said, for purposes of this demonstration, I'm going to kind of manipulate this a little bit so that I can get it on camera. Alright, so the other thing we don't want to do when we do this is we don't want to grasp it like this. I see some people go like this, or some people go like this, or I see some people go like this. We don't want to do that. We don't want to grasp it so we're blocking first air. We want to make sure that we have two pincers fingers. We hold these pincer fingers down here in the barrel. This is a very stable kind of thing. Alright, I see people do this all the time. They'll pull back on their vials, or the syringes, I'm sorry, the syringes. They get the volume they want, and then they try to get the bubbles out, and they're not holding this vial. This isn't very stable, and then they start knocking on the barrel. Next thing you know, this gets flown into the HEPA filter. At the same time, liquid is also following it. Not a good situation, okay? So, we want to make sure we have a good, stable background here, all right? Now, once we get that, we pull back to where we want to go. As I said, 2.25, which is right about there. And then we pull out. Now we do have some bubbles in there, so we pull back. Remember I said you pull back the volume out of the barrel first, and then you start trying to knock those bubbles out. You see I didn't pull back far enough, alright, to get that fluid out of the barrel. Alright, so once all the bubbles are done, we pull back again, and then we expel all the air out, and we're now at 2.25. Alright, as I said before, we're going to put your finger down here, bring this up, we're going to grab hold of it, we're going to go in at 45-degree angle until we hit the bevel, and we go straight down. Alright, and then we eject. Now we're going to store that aseptically for right now, because we're going to use it at another time. Alright, we're going to go on to step 5 now.